government task team has reached an understanding with the agitating community school teachers who have been raising their voice against the education bill registered at the parliament. The government has struck a 7-point agreement with the agitating teachers, fulfilling the main demand of them who want the jurisdiction of the teachers under the federal parliament rather than local levels as provisioned by the under consideration education bill. Good evening, I'm Sapsanamma. Let's begin with the top stories of the hour. Agitating teachers and government talks team reach a 7-point agreement. Kathmandu traffic route thrown out of gear for the third day due to protest rallies of teachers. Prime Minister Dahal calls on US President Joe Biden in New York. Dahal leaves for China today itself to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping tomorrow. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky seeks more help to fend off Russian forces. US President Joe Biden says he is confident Congress will continue to support Kyiv. And both men and women table tennis team of Nepal suffered defeat at the 19th Asian Games. A disappointing show by Nepali paddlers against Singapore. The government talks team and the agitating teachers have struck a 7-point agreement during the talks held at Singadarbar today. In the face of growing protest by the teachers against the education bill tabled at the parliament, the government held official talks to settle the dispute. The meeting at Home Ministry, Singadarbar, dwelt on the demands put forth by the Teachers Association. The government team was led by Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister Naren Kaji Shrestha, while the Agitating Teachers Association was led by its chair Kamal Tuladhar. Prior to this, several rounds of unofficial dialogues have been held between the two sides at Singadarbar. Meanwhile, the agitating teachers continued with their capital-centric protest demonstrations earlier today as well. The teachers demonstrated at the capital's Maitighar Baneshwar road section for the third consecutive day as the traffic route was thrown out of gear. Contrary to the protest on the last 2 days, the agitating teachers also sang and danced during the demonstrations today. The agitation has halted academic curriculum in some 29,000 community schools spread across the country. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal called on US President Joe Biden in New York earlier today. Dahal met with Biden in the sideline of the 78th UN General Assembly before leaving for China today itself. Earlier, during his address to the Assembly, Premier Dahal had informed the world community that Nepal's peace process was heading towards a conclusion, saying that the remaining works of peace process was political agenda and that the government had presented a bill related to transitional justice at the federal parliament. Prime Minister Dahal assured that the Nepal government was committed to achieve sustainable development goals, but highlighted the lack of resource to do so. He therefore urged the international community to support Nepal with development projects, direct investments, export promotion and technology transfers, among others. Premier Dahal also informed the UN General Assembly that Nepal was to graduate from its least developed status in November later this year and that all preparations have been made for it. The Prime Minister has left for China after ending his US trip as he is scheduled to attend the 19th Asian Games opening ceremony and also call on Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, Madhya Province government is to call for its second convention from 8th of October. This comes after the province government endorsed its budget for the ongoing fiscal year. Of the many bills registered at the Provincial Assembly, the provincial government has so far been able to endorse 2 bills and approved of a few amendments to the existing laws. Thematic committees are currently dwelling on 4 other bills. Professors of economics subject have suggested the government to improve the state's capacity for sustainable development, employment generation and improve spending, calling for a change in the country's policies. Speaking during the annual program of Economics Department of Tribhuvan University, professors of the subject opined the government was unable to generate adequate employment opportunities due to the inability to use development budget and because of import-based economy. They added that even the disbursement of loans equivalent to gross domestic product had failed to generate expected employment opportunities. Economics professors said the government needs to segregate primary and secondary sectors in order to improve the economy, adding that there was a need to capacitate monitoring entities. The number of pneumonia patients is on the rise in the country in recent time. According to Tribhuvan University Teaching Hospital, 7 to 8 people have been testing positive for pneumonia on a daily basis in the past 2 weeks. Likewise, Beed Hospital has been receiving 12 to 15 new patients of pneumonia on a daily basis, while the number is around 10 individuals per week at Patan Hospital. Health professionals say pneumonia is not seasonal or age-specific and can be caused at any time due to virus and bacteria. They have warned the general public to be cautious of fever, cold, chest pain and difficulties in breathing. Doctors say people with chronic ailments and those who smoke and drink are more prone to pneumonia, and carelessness during this condition can even lead to death. Hundreds of national ID cards have been collecting dust in District Administration Office Sunsari as applicants have not collected them. Chief District Officer Humkala Pandey says the service seekers whose national ID cards are ready were informed through SMS, but they have not reached the DAO to receive the cards. In the Nepalese month of Shravan and Bhadra, the Sunsari administration has distributed 74 national ID cards. Although the national ID cards are considered equivalent to citizenship certificates, many government offices are still to give it as much legitimacy, resulting in the lack of interest among the general public. And moving on, locals in Tiptala Bhanjang, the border region between Nepal and China in Taplejung, have received border ID cards as the customs is set to resume operations after 4 years. According to Taplejung's Chief District Officer, Goma Devi Chemjong, the border ID card were distributed to locals at Phaktanglung rural municipalities Olangchungola. Phaktanglung's ward chair Chetan Sherpalama said the Tibet administration had informed the border ID cards were mandatory for any movement through the customs. The ID cards were distributed to those living within 25 kilometers of the shared border, specifically those in Olangchungola and Yamang. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, why has the trend of VIPs availing of facilities against set standard persisted? Your options are A, dominating attitude, B, monitoring lapses, and C, legal complexities. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Let's move on to the international update. With Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington seeking more help to fend off Russian forces, U.S. President Joe Biden has said he was confident Congress would continue supporting Kiev. U.S. President Joe Biden said there was no alternative for Congress but to back giving fresh military aid to Ukraine in its fight against invading Russian forces. In Congress, Republican and Democratic leaders are entrenched in a spending battle that could spark a U.S. government shutdown, with a $24 billion aid package for Ukraine at risk. President Volodymyr Zelensky vowed Ukraine will liberate Bakhmut and 2 more unnamed cities in a meeting with U.S. media. Zelensky met with President Joe Biden at the White House as the U.S. announced a new support package for Ukraine, including $128 million in security assistance and $197 million in arms and equipment. The latest U.S. round of help for Ukraine includes air defense missiles, ammunitions for HIMARS precision rocket launchers, anti-tank weapons, and artillery rounds. Earlier, Zelensky spoke with U.S. lawmakers about efforts to bolster U.S. aid for Kiev. In Ukraine, Russian strikes on the southern city of Kherson killed at least 5 people, while attacks on Kiev and Kharkiv left more injured. Meanwhile, Ukraine said it carried out a massive missile strike against a Russian base in Crimea.
Everyone in? Mr. President, it's an honor to welcome you.
China has said that it has never recognized a disputed Indian state as 3 Indian athletes failed to obtain visas to attend the Asian Games. 3 Indian martial arts athletes were not able to participate in the Asian Games 2023 in Hangzhou after their visa applications to China were denied. Speaking at a news conference in Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said that China welcomed athletes from each country to come to Hangzhou with legal documents to participate in the Asian Games. The 3 athletes are from northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh. China claims Arunachal Pradesh in the eastern Himalayas to be a part of southern Tibet and had in April released a map renaming 11 places in the state as being within Jiangnan or southern Tibet in Chinese. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.